Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our making accessible apps for Apple platforms series, and in this particular video we're going to be taking a look at how we can create custom accessibility rotors in SwiftUI, and in the next video we'll do the same thing but with UIKit. Alright, so how do we create custom accessibility rotors in SwiftUI? Well, that is done with the accessibility rotor modifier. However, let's kind of go over first our starting point application here. So I have an application with 8 different list items in the sidebar here in a navigation split view. And when we click on or tap on any of these items, it'll bring us to a map where that location will be marked with a marker on the map. So if we go into my app here, we can see my sidebar. I have Statue of Liberty focused, and we can see where the Statue of Liberty is. I have the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone National Park, Yosemite National Park, Grand Canyon National Park, and Acadia National Park. Now, these are all United States-based locations, but these can be any location that you want. If you want to do some kind of location in Europe, by all means do it. If you want someplace in, say, the Arctic, you can do that. In South America, Central America, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a list of locations here, it's fine, right? Now, I want to preface this by saying having a custom accessibility rotor isn't contingent on this particular example. You can use rotors in various different kinds of examples, but this is a very prevalent one, and I want to show you how that exactly works. All right, so we see what our application is right now. If we close that out and we go into Xcode, we can see exactly how this is constructed. So let's go from the top down. So here we go. From the top down, we're importing SwiftUI, and we're also importing MapKit, so we have access to our map and and annotations or markers rather, and all that. We have a structure for our location. This conforms to identifiable, and it must conform to identifiable. You cannot have it not conform to this. It has to. Inside of location, I have an enumeration called a category. So this will help us to categorize our different locations, whether they are a national park or a monument. We have an ID, and this ID is an integer. We have a name and its category, and then we have its coordinates, which is a CL location coordinate 2D. Now the next thing that we have is a location cell. So this is the cell for our list in our sidebar here. Simply put, it's just an SF symbol. And then to text views, the SF symbol is configured to do kind of a scale animation in perpetuity, and has the render mode of multicolor. So you can see when the application is running, you can see that the SF symbol has a red circle and a white pin on the inside. That is the multicolor rendering mode at work. The two text views are pretty much where we have the name of the location, and then we have a text representation of its category, so national park if it's a national park, and monument if it's a monument. Now I'm going to go ahead and say alignment dot leading. That way they're all up against the leading edge of the list. Now the name in the cell is bold, whereas the category is more of a subdued kind of secondary label color there. Right. Now next we are going to skip over content view and go down below here. Here we have our map, or rather our location view. And we have a state variable tracking the camera position for the map. Map camera position takes an MK coordinate region from MapKit, which we're doing here, giving it, the center, giving it the span, and all that kind of stuff. This is just normal MapKit stuff. Then we need to give it a location. So we have a location variable that when you create a location view, you have to give it a specific location to work with. And then inside of our body, we're creating a map, and this map will take in our camera position. And then we need to loop over our location, which in this case it's just 1. We don't need to worry about. You don't technically need a for each here, but I just have it here because I was testing stuff out. And we have a marker that is indicative of each individual location, right? So we're going to have that placed on the map at the specific coordinates for the location. Pretty self-explanatory. Now if we go back up to content view, this is relatively simple. We have a navigation split view, and in the sidebar we have a list of all of our locations put in a location cell. The list style is sidebar, so it'll look how a sidebar is supposed to look on each platform. And then for our detail, we have a text view that basically says select a location to get started. Inside of our for each there, we have the navigation link contains our destination of our location view and all that good stuff. So that's kind of what we're working with right now. But what I want to do is I want to add an accessibility rotor to our list of locations that will allow us to cycle through the national parks, and it will also allow us to navigate through our monuments. So we need 2 rotors because we have 2 different categories that we want to filter our stuff through. Now to do this, we want to go beneath our list style modifier here. And beneath our list style, we're going to say dot accessibility rotor. Now this is going to take in a label, so the name of our rotor. In this case, it'll be National Parks. And then it's going to take in a closure. Now, this closure is supposed to have rotor content, accessibility rotor content. Now, to create this content, we're going to loop through all of our locations, determine whether or not the specific location being looped over is a national park, and if it is, then we'll create an accessibility rotor content with that specific value and ID. So inside of this closure, we're going to say for each locations, I want to give it the ID here, location in. Inside of the for each, we're going to say if location.category is equal to .national park, we will say accessibility rotor entry. And inside of here, we give it a label. So it'll be location.name. And then we need to give it an ID of location.id, like that. And that is our national parks rotor. It's relatively simple to work with. Now, what about our monuments rotor? Well, it's created the exact same way. We can say dot accessibility rotor monuments. Give it a closure here. And inside of this closure, for each locations ID, give it the ID, give it a location, and then inside of our for each, if location dot category is equal to dot monument, then we want an accessibility rotor entry with a location.name and an ID of location.id, like that. And those are our two rotors. Now, you might be wondering, well, how does SwiftUI know what item it's supposed to look at or focus on when you use the rotor? And that's a good question. SwiftUI under the hood is intelligent enough to use the actual view hierarchy and the content of your rotor and match the IDs. It's intelligent enough to match those IDs with one another. So when it does that, it knows, oh, okay, I need to go to this particular view where this particular ID is located. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this on macOS to begin with SwiftUI. Right. So here's our macOS version of the app. Let's go into our list here. And I'm going to focus on Washington Monument to start with. So how do we access our rotor then? Well, to access a rotor in VoiceOver, we need to do Command, Option, Control, hold those three keys down, and then left or right arrow. So navigation, characters, words, window spots, content chooser, monuments. There's our second rotor that we specified in our code. And then we have national parks. Let's go to monuments here, and we can, once we are focused on a rotor that we want to use, keep Control, Command, and Option held down, and do the up and down arrow to cycle through the options. So we can go through each individual monument, and it will select those. It'll select those options for us. All right. So now what we can also do is, again, we can go into our rotor here, and we'll find national parks. Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, and Acadia. All right. So that's kind of how that. So that's how that works on macOS. But what about in an iOS application? Well, we can change our run destination to my phone. Toolbar, we want activity view, path. We'll say my phone here, and I'm gonna quickly turn on Do Not Disturb on my phone here.
151, one notification. Trust social.
Turn on Do Not Disturb.
Do Not Disturb is already turned on.
Okay, cool. Now, what we can do is we will run our code here. And yes, I would like to replace it.
Face ID. Batteries. Joshua Roots iPhone.
All right. So now it's loading the app. I'm going to go ahead and screen mirror for you.
Airplane mode selected. Accessibility show. Dark mode. Switch. Screen. Low power. Screen recording. Button.
Nope, not screen recording.
Screen mirroring. Button. Low power mode. Button. Screen mirroring. Button. Screen mirroring. Button. Double tap. Screen mirror. In progress. 32 inches TCL LG with OS TV. 32 screen mirroring. Heading. Screen 32 LG with OS TV. Joshua's Mac Mini. Button.
We want
Joshua's Mac Mini.
to go to the Mac Mini here. All right, cool. So here we are. Inside of the app, it's loading. So kind of give it a second. Oh.
Apps, tutorial apps with UI. Tutorial apps with UI. Sidebar. Mount tutorial apps with UI. Active.
All right, so here we are inside of our app.
Mount Rushmore. Monument. Button.
We can go ahead and twist our fingers, or rather rotate our fingers on the screen as if we're rotating a physical knob.
Characters. Words. Speaking rate. 6. Volume. 1/2. Containers. Headings. Monuments. National parks. Monuments.
So we have monuments
National parks.
and national parks.
Monuments.
Let's go ahead and use the monuments rotor first.
Lincoln Memorial. Monument. Washington Monument. Statue of Liberty. Monument. Button. Washington Monument. Monument. Lincoln Memorial. Monument. Mount Rushmore. Monument. Button. Lincoln Memorial. Monument. Button.
And we can tap on that monument.
Loading. Map. Loading.
And there's the map.
Screen recording in progress. Map. No features visible. Map. No. Back button.
We can go back. And then we can
Words. Characters.
find our rotors again here.
Containers. Headings. Characters. Words. Speaking rate. Volume. Containers. Headings. Characters. Sidebar. National card. Characters. Words. Speaking rate. 65%. Words. Characters. National parks.
Okay, there's national parks. Now let's go through this rotor here.
Acadia National Park. National Park. Grand Canyon National Park. Yosemite National Park. Yellowstone National Park. National Park. Yosemite National Park. National Park. Button. Grand Canyon National Park. National Park. Button. Acadia National Park. National Park.
Acadia.
Loading. Use the rotor to access points of
And
interest.
there's our map. All right, so that pretty much is how we can create and use rotors in our apps.
Collapse stat. Now.
And thank you all so very much for watching. Make sure that you stay tuned for the next video where we take a look at how we can create rotors in UIKit. It's a little bit more involved, but it's still worth it nonetheless. See you then.